Thank you so much. Would you give these wonderful people who have been singing and offering their talent so beautifully this morning a round of applause? Our voices of praise and instruments of praise, and we just so appreciate their talents today on a special Easter Sunday. How many of you remember the family circus cartoons? You know, growing up, I used to open up a newspaper and look for those cartoons. It was my favorite part of the newspaper each and every day as a teenager, and looking at the chance to see what those family circus truly antics were all about. Well, years ago, there was an Easter cartoon of two children searching for their Easter baskets. For one, a little boy this was his first Easter, and he was full of questions and wondering, what is this Easter thing all about as a little boy? And so he turned to his much wiser, much older sister for the answers to these Easter questions. Like, who colored all these eggs? Oh, his sister responded, well, you know, the Easter Bunny did this. Well, who gave us all these jelly beans? Why, of course, the Easter Bunny did all of this. Well, who made these colorful baskets? His sister replied the usual, it's the Easter Bunny, silly. Easter Sunday, the boy and his family went to church. Well, at one point, the minister got all excited and fired up. And with great suspense in his sermon, he shouts out, and they came to the tomb and found the stone rolled away. Who could have done this? And he jumped up and said, the Easter Bunny. Well, I'm here to tell you, it wasn't the Easter Bunny. In fact, it is funny how we are shaped in our lives by the information we receive. And in this case, that little boy received some information that maybe not was quite correct. He didn't have all the details, all the story. How many of you remember Paul Harvey and his radio show? He was so famous for that line, and now you know the rest of the story. He offered a lunchtime radio show, and he always had a story that had a background to it, a moral, or some sort of snappy little conclusion that wound everything up together. He was famous for building the picture and making you wonder, who is this person? What's this story all about? And then he'd finally put the details together, and, well, it's kind of like this. Let me give you an example. There was a young boy from an obscure little town who grew in wisdom as well as in body, and he kept telling his friends that he had a source for all this wonderful insight that came to him, and that everyone could tap into this as well. Yet so many in that little community didn't quite understand him, didn't want to pay that much attention to him. In fact, his family was a little uncertain about his strange behavior. And then one day, he began to put all this awareness into action. And he began bringing about some amazing things. He was healing others. He was teaching new understanding. He was transforming the world. But now suddenly those around him were so uncomfortable about his words. His words presented a different picture to the world than how they knew it. So they plotted to get rid of him. And they plotted that in such a way that it escalated to one of the most horrific deaths of time. They killed him and placed him in a grave, and his followers scattered, and it seemed like that was the end, or was it? And now we go to a commercial break. That was so true of Paul Harvey. Leaving you hanging there, what? As we listen to some commercial about an Amway product, or Tupperware, or something else that was available at that time. And then we go back, and he continues. One might have thought the story ends, but 3 days later, those who loved him came to do that ceremonial dressing of the body, only to find the grave was open. What appeared to be final was not final. Death and defeat suddenly became the story of life and victory. It was his message. Now that seemed even more to be not just simple words, but it was a message that really reflected the liberty, setting forth the captives free in life's challenges. It was a message that gave us a recipe for leaving our bondages. It was a victory and overcoming power of abundant life. And even better, he said, and demonstrated that it's for you. That little boy, that one who taught so lovingly, that man who died was Jesus. And now you know the rest of the story. You see, that phrase became so powerful, and it was a classic that just kept you there. And now you know the rest of the story and how true that is in life. Sometimes we are not fully informed. We don't have all the complete picture. We're hanging on edge. We're living in that way that we're just with question and wonder, and suddenly somehow we receive the rest of the story and it resolves. Too often in life, as we think of this Easter weekend, we get stuck in our Good Fridays. You know, the Good Friday experiences where it may seem to be good on the outside, but really it's a horrible day. You feel that you yourself are going through all the suffering, and you may identify with Jesus in such a way that you begin to think, well, maybe it's a calling for all of us to suffer, that our life was meant to suffer, and that we're somehow meant for this purpose. We think we must carry our own crosses to some sort of death, and we think that's just it. Good Friday. That's it. And the sad thing is, so often we get stuck. Stuck in that little spot right there of a Good Friday cycle that goes over and over and over again, and we just spin our wheels repeating those stories within our head, within our mind, within our very thinking. And without the rest of the story, we see our life living full of fear, death. Fears of what life will bring us is only going to be the very worst. Fears of feeling, well, there's just no victory for me. We're spinning in a Good Friday cycle. But we don't have to. We can move on, because when we hear the rest of the story, it takes us away from that spin, and we're able to spin on out and move on into something even better. So Easter is about giving you the rest of the story, the completion. It's more than just death. It's more than a cross. It's more than those final moments where it's proclaimed it is finished. Easter is more than. More than. Oh, so much more than this. Easter is the truth that greater than today is your tomorrow. And greater than what you may be going through in this moment is that which may come to you next. Because you've got to have the rest of the story to put it all together. In the midst of your challenge, in the midst of a trial, in the midst of that which may seem like your Good Friday, there's the rest. And that's the wonderful promises that God is ever making new. That every day is the hope of Easter to be lived out. Now, Easter is asking you, what will you do with that more than? Will you allow the rest of the story to shape us, to shape our future? Will you allow the rest of the story to come into your life and permeate you in such a way that you see that it's teaching you, I can move forward. I don't have to stay right where I am. There's a wonderful promise of something great ahead for me. There is a resurrection. There is a victory. That which maybe seems so final in this moment is not the end of the story, for there's more to unfold. So let me ask you this. Do you see your own stone rolled away in your Easter experiences? In your day-to-day journey? When you think about it, this wonderful symbolism and metaphor for the story of our lives, we may see that there's a big burden right in our way that's holding us back. We want to move forward, but somehow we're just so focused on that stone that's right there. But if we've heard the words and the teachings of Jesus, we would never, ever come to the tombs of our life with any other expectation than knowing that when we get there, the stone will already be rolled away. Wow. That's how we live. That's what Jesus was telling us. That's what Easter is all about. That when you come to those moments, know that it's already done. It's already moving forward. The stone is already rolled away for you. And we claim that. And we live that kind of life. If we embraced everything that Jesus taught us, we would then forget the spices to dress the wounds of our life, because they're already healed. And we know that. And we would come expecting to see the manifestation of this great miracle. We would come looking, I know that tomb is empty. I already speak that. I know it. I claim it. That's my word. That's exactly how I live. That's my faith in its fullness. I don't need to come to dress wounds of life. I don't need to come with a fear that the stone is in my way. I already know. We would come and celebrate God's more than. God It's getting better. That's what we would proclaim. Remember the Jeffersons TV show? I'm moving on up. Y'all can sing that song. It's going to be stuck in your head all day. I'm moving on up to the east side to a apartment in the... Okay, you've got it. And exactly a wonderful metaphor for us. We're moving on up. That's what Easter's saying. I'm moving on up. I'm not staying where I am right now in this moment. I am moving to a higher plane, to a next level. For I know that's the story of Easter for my life. Or are you simply holding on to the physical? Are you holding on to your tombstone? Are you got it grasped so tight in your life? Are you not allowing it to roll away? Or you're seeing, wow, it's gone. Which is it for you? Too often, we can't even see that the stones are gone. But Easter wants to call us to seeing the world from a whole new perspective. Our new life, resurrection understanding will only come when we're ready to see the stones of our life have been rolled away, and we change our thinking and we begin to look, move, and act in a whole new way. This happens when we remember the words of Jesus. Now think clearly. This is what Jesus said. God makes the way even when there seems to be no way. Amen? I think you can say amen. How about Jesus said, according to your faith, so shall you receive. As you believe, it's going to come to you. Amen? Rise up and be healed. Amen? How about take your bed and walk? Amen. How about Lazarus, come out of that tomb? Wow, can you imagine we say, how about amen to that? Bless the bread and break it, knowing that there's enough for thousands. Amen? When the world is without or in need, you turn water into wine. Amen? When the storms come on the seas of life, rise up and say, peace be still right now. Amen? Jesus said when you see people struggling and fishing all night, you tell them to cast their nets on the other side. Make a change in your approach and find that your nets will be full to overflowing. Amen? How about when the world tries to divide us and break our unity? Remembers Jesus' words that we are one, not separated, but one with God and one with one another. Amen? Remember the teaching when Jesus when they tried to crucify and nail you to the cross, because those words simply say, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Woo! Say amen. Forgive them. Forgive them. Forgive them. And never forget that you are an eternal being in the face of every challenge, and God will raise you up too. These are the teachings of Jesus. When we embrace that, we understand the words of Jesus are alive on Easter Sunday, and they're alive not only this day, but every day. And they invite us to do something. Keep moving forward. Not backward. No, moving forward. It's moving to a higher plane. That spark of the divine that is within you, it cannot go out. It may lie a little dormant for a while. But let me tell you, it's always alive. You have this amazing God's presence within you. And if you just pause to recognize it, that overcoming power now is yours. You can rise up and you can roll your stones away. You keep that energy of the Spirit of God moving within you every single day as you live the Easter experience moment by moment, day by day, second by second, hour by hour, year by year. I am in a resurrection mode. I am moving forward. We access then that resurrection power that says yes. And we say, I keep moving. Say it with me. I keep moving. Turn to your partner and say, keep moving. Keep moving. We want to do that as we embrace that. That's the ever-expanding power of the presence of God. That's the ever-expanding power of that Easter moment. It's not just here, but celebrating and moving beyond and expanding and moving forward. There were 3 individuals in a car crash. They all died. They got to the pearly gates. St. Peter was there to greet them and conducting an orientation for all those who arrived at that moment. And there he turned to them and said, when you were at your funeral and you saw that body lying in the casket and your family and friends were passing by, what would you have liked to have people say? What would you like to have them whisper to you as they look down into that casket? The first man said, I would have loved to have heard I was a great doctor. I would have loved to have heard I was a family man. Ooh. Second person thought for a moment and said, I would have loved to have heard them say, I'd been a good wife. I was a teacher who made a difference. The third one, after pondering on the thought, what would you like them to say to me while lying in the casket? I'd like to hear, look, he's moving. This is what Easter's all about. Look, he's moving. I'm moving on out. Amen? That's the Easter morning for you. You may thought it was dead. You may thought it was lying still, but no, look, they're moving. The church is moving. The people are moving. You're moving. Faith is rising. People are going forward. Look, he's moving. TV personality Regis Philbin hosted a show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You all remember that TV show. I know you're all TV fans. And you were sitting there on the edge with answering those questions, and that moment that came when he'd always ask, is that your final answer? And you'd maybe question it, you'd wonder, you'd second guess yourself. A, C, question, answer B, I don't know. And you wanted to phone a friend. You wanted to dial up somebody. You want to turn to the audience, vote yourself. You know it wasn't there, but that haunting question was always there. Is that your final answer? Is this the way you're going to view life? Are you sure? Because let me tell you this, 10% of life is how you view it. 90% is how you will respond. You may look at the tomb. You may look at that experience. You may see the crosses of your life. You may see crucifixions. You may see challenges. How will you respond? Easter tells us we keep on moving. Easter tells us that we are not left at the cross. We are not left with death. We are not left with loss, lack, or defeat. There's something more, because now you know the rest of the story. Easter asks,